Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today with a bit of a confession.
Oh, this sounds good.
I spent, and I'm not proud of this, probably an hour last night just doom scrolling through productivity TikTok.
Ah, yes. The genre.
You know exactly the genre I'm talking about, right? It's always some guy who wakes up at 3:30 a.m.
In the dark.
in the pitch black. He takes an ice bath for 20 minutes, mediates while hanging upside down from a gravity bar, and has supposedly, closed 3 deals and made $1 million before the sun even thinks about coming up.
It's what I like to call optimization porn. It's incredibly popular.
That's a perfect name for it.
And it feeds directly on that nagging insecurity we all have that we just aren't doing enough with our 24 hours, that someone somewhere has cracked the code and we're being left behind.
Precisely. We are completely obsessed with optimization. We buy the complicated planners, we download the habit tracking apps, we count macros, we track our REM sleep.
We're drowning in data about ourselves.
We're constantly on the hunt for this complex secret system that's finally going to unlock our potential. But I have a stack of papers here on the desk that suggests we might be looking in entirely the wrong place.
Well, we usually do look for complex solutions to what feel like complex problems, but today, we're going to pivot a little. We are not looking at a neurobiology paper from a peer-reviewed journal.
No.
And we are not looking at the biography of a Fortune 500 CEO. We are, and this might sound a little strange, analyzing a transcript from an English language learning podcast.
I know how that sounds. You tuned in for a deep dive, and we're handing you essentially an English lesson. But you've got to bear with us on this.
There's a method to the madness.
There is. The source is from the English Leap podcast, specifically from a channel called Speak English with Class.
Yeah.
It features a conversation between two, let's call them characters, Jennifer and Daniel. And their conversation is being analyzed by a vocabulary expert named Crystal.
So on the surface, it sounds incredibly mundane. They're just teaching non-native speakers how to talk about their daily routines. I wake up, I brush my teeth, that sort of thing.
Exactly.
But that is precisely why this document is so valuable to us, because it's an educational tool. The dialogue has been stripped of all the messiness and the chaos of a real lived day. It's been distilled down to the absolute archetypal essentials of what a good day looks like.
It's like looking at a laboratory specimen of a day.
Right.
It's perfect. It's clean. And we get these two archetypes. We have a student, Jennifer, and we have a professional, Daniel. And as they describe their lives, they unknowingly lay out this blueprint that is honestly a masterclass in physiology, psychology, and maybe most importantly, energy management.
And that's our mission today. We are going to deconstruct this perfect routine, this idealized day, phase by phase.
Morning, afternoon, and evening.
We'll look at the specific behaviors they model, the dietary choices they're making, and this is the part I find most fascinating, the specific vocabulary they use to describe it all.
The vocabulary is so key here because, as we're going to see, the words that Jennifer and Daniel use to talk about their day actually shape how they experience that day. It's not just about what they do. It's about how they frame it in their own minds.
It's a concept from linguistics. Some listeners might know it. It's called the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, or linguistic relativity.
Right.
And the basic idea is that the structure of a language affects its speaker's worldview or their cognition. So in this case, the very words they have available to them, words that Crystal, the expert, points out, they determine how they process things like stress and energy and time.
So let's open the file. Let's start where every day starts.
The morning
Watch
workout.
bad. The source material kicks off right at the wake-up call. We have Jennifer, the student. She's up at 7 a.m. And then we have Daniel, the professional, who gets up a little earlier at 6:30 a.m.
Okay, now I have to play devil's advocate right away. In the world of those TikTok productivity gurus we were just talking about, 6:30 a.m. is practically sleeping in.
It's a late start for the 4 a.m. club, for
Okay.
sure. Right. The 5 a.m. club is a massive trend. So is waking up at 6:30 actually notable? Or is it just standard human functionality?
I think it is notable, but maybe not because of the number on the clock. I think it's notable because of the attitude toward the number. Daniel mentions that his job requires him to start early.
Okay.
But if you actually look at the text, is there any resentment there? Is there any friction, any complaining?
No, none at all. He just states it as a fact. I'm up at 6:30. It's just a neutral piece of information.
Exactly. And that's the first lesson. He's accepted the constraint of his life and he's built a structure around it rather than fighting against it every morning. But, the most important thing here isn't when they wake up. It's what is completely missing from the transcript.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
We scans this entire text for any mention of technology in the first hour of the day. It is a complete dead zone for tech.
Nothing. Neither Jennifer nor Daniel mentions a phone. There's no checking email, no scrolling social media, no reading the terrifying news headlines first thing.
And this is a really crucial distinction between this ideal day and what we might call the modern day. In behavioral psychology, we talk a lot about reactive versus proactive states of mind.
Right.
If the absolute first thing you do when you open your eyes is look at a screen, you are immediately, and I mean instantly, entering a reactive state.
You're letting the outside world in before you're even fully awake.
You are. You're letting the outside world, the news, your boss's email, the social media algorithm, you're letting it dictate your dopamine levels and your cortisol spikes before you have even put your feet on the floor.
So you start the day in a defensive crouch, not attacking the day. You're already parrying attacks from it.
Precisely. But look at these two. They start in silence. They start with themselves. Let's look at Jennifer's first move. She wakes up at 7 a.m. and she says, I take a moment to stretch and breathe. And then she uses this very specific phrase. She calls it a gentle way to start the day.
That word gentle really stuck out to me. It feels almost countercultural, doesn't it? We're conditioned to think we need to attack the day. We have to crush the morning.
Win the morning, win the day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But she wants to be gentle. Why is that so significant?
Well, biologically speaking, it is by far the smarter play. When you first wake up, your body is transitioning out of a state called sleep inertia. Your brain is still a little fuzzy. Your body is stiff. If you spike your cortisol, which is your primary stress hormone, the second the alarm goes off by rushing or checking a stressful email, you are burning fuel that you are going to desperately need at 3 p.m.
Okay.
So by stretching, by breathing, Jennifer is deliberately keeping her nervous system in a parasympathetic state, that's the rest and digest state, for just a little bit longer. She's easing into the day.
And Crystal, the vocabulary expert in the source, she defines stretch in the most basic way possible. She says it's to extend body or limbs to loosen muscles. But in this context, it feels like she's defining much more than that. It's a transition ritual.
She is waking up the hardware before she even tries to run the software. That's the best way I can think to describe it.
I love that analogy.
You can't run high processing applications on a computer that is still booting up. It'll crash. The stretch is the boot up sequence for the human body.
Okay, so Jennifer is stretching. She's booting out. Now let's look at Daniel. He's up at 6:30, and he has a different but equally important non-negotiable first step.
The water. He says, quote, the first thing I do is drink a glass of water to hydrate.
And Crystal, our expert, defines hydrate simply as to give your body water, which, sure, that's the dictionary definition. But Daniel adds this little piece of commentary that I think is the whole point. He says drinking that water sets the tone for the day ahead.
Sets the tone. That is a very specific, very intentional choice of words. It implies that hydration isn't just a passive act of drinking. It is an action of intent. It's a biological signal.
Can we just unpack the biology of that a little more? Why does a simple glass of water set a tone? What's happening inside?
Well, think about the physiology of sleep. You have effectively been fasting for 7, maybe 8 hours. You haven't consumed any liquid. Your blood is actually slightly thicker, more viscous than it was when you went to bed.
Wow, I never thought of that.
And your brain, which functions on electrical impulses that are carried through a fluid medium, is dehydrated. So by drinking a glass of water immediately upon waking, Daniel isn't just quenching thirst. He is effectively increasing the conductivity of his entire nervous system.
So he's literally priming the pump for his own brain.
He is flipping the main breaker switch. He's sending a clear signal to the body. We're online. Digestion is waking up. The brain is waking up. Let's go. If he started with coffee, which is a diuretic, it actually dehydrates you. Or if he started with a sugary energy drink, he would be sending a really chaotic, stressful signal. Water is a clean, pure, neutral signal of readiness.
It's so simple, but it makes so much sense when you break it down like that. So we have the stretch, we have the water. Then they both move on to hygiene. Brushing teeth, washing their faces. Again, this seems like pretty standard stuff, but they both use the word refreshing to describe it.
And it seems to act as the key transition point. In this ideal day model that they're building, the bathroom sink acts as a kind of border
A
crossings.
border crossing. I like
Well,
that.
You cross from the land of sleep and dreams to the land of action and wakefulness. And by washing your face, physically changing the temperature and sensation on your skin, you are sending a powerful sensory alert to the entire system. You are telling your brain the state has changed.
Okay, so they're awake, they're clean, they're hydrated, the machine is on.
Huh?
Now we have to talk about fuel, the breakfast. And this is where the source material gets very, very prescriptive. They don't just say eat breakfast.
Yeah.
They explicitly advocate for a light breakfast.
This is a critical point of differentiation from what many of us grew up with, the idea of a hearty start to the day.
Right, the big farm breakfast.
Exactly. But here, Jennifer has oatmeal or toast. Daniel has eggs with toast or a smoothie. And Crystal defines a light breakfast as, quote, a small, simple meal.
So why the emphasis on small and simple? We've always been told that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Shouldn't it be big and substantial?
Not if what you're optimizing for is focus, which is what they are clearly doing. Digestion is an incredibly metabolically expensive process. There's something called the thermic effect of food, which is the energy your body expends just to digest and process what you've eaten.
Okay.
If you eat a massive stack of pancakes with syrup and a side of bacon, your body has to divert a significant amount of blood flow and energy away from your brain and down to your stomach to break all of that down. That leaves less oxygen and less glucose available for the frontal cortex of the brain, which is where you do your thinking and planning.
You get the itis. That's what we always called it. You get that heavy, sleepy, foggy feeling.
That's exactly what it is, and Jennifer explicitly says she eats light to get her energy up. A heavy meal would do the exact opposite. It would weigh her down, both physically and cognitively.
And if you look at their choices, oatmeal, eggs, the glycemic index is important here too, isn't it?
It's paramount. These are slow-burning fuels. They provide a very steady, controlled release of glucose into the bloodstream, not a massive spike, followed by an inevitable crash an hour later, which is what you'd get from, say, a sugary cereal or a pastry.
It's all about minimizing friction. Daniel even mentions a smoothie. I mean, that is the ultimate efficiency food. You just drink your nutrition and get on with the day. No muss, no fuss.
And notice the sequence of all this. This is so important. Only after the body is stretched, hydrated, washed, and lightly fueled, only then do they turn to the work of the day. This is what the source presents as the organization phase.
Right. Jennifer checks her emails and her to-do list. Daniel checks his class schedule.
And here is where Crystal provides a definition that I think is really worth dwelling on for a moment. She defines a to-do list as a list of tasks you plan to complete.
That seems incredibly obvious, doesn't it? Like, thanks for that, Crystal.
It seems obvious on the surface, but look at that word plan. It implies forward-looking intentionality. Jennifer isn't opening her email to see what other people want her to do. That would be reactive planning. That's letting other people set your agenda.
That's a huge distinction.
It is. She is looking at a list of what she plans to complete. She's setting the agenda for her own time, for her own focus. She is the architect.
And Daniel says something similar. He checks his schedule to make sure I'm ready for the day ahead. He's preparing. He's not reacting.
And that phrase sums up the entire morning launchpad. A calm, organized start. They don't just jump into the chaos of the day. They build a foundation of physiological and psychological calm, and then they step into the work. It is a profound difference from how many of us start our days, which is often just chaos from the second our eyes open.
It really highlights that difference. They are putting on their armor before they go into battle, so to speak. So they've launched. They are hydrated, they're fueled, they are organized. Now we can move into the next phase, the afternoon engine.
This is where the rubber really meets the road. This is where the deep work actually happens.
Jennifer identifies the afternoon as her most focused time. She has her classes, her study sessions. Daniel says it's the busiest part of his day with meetings and project work.
And Crystal defines focused here as giving your full attention. And I think it's very interesting that both the student and the professional identify this specific block of time post-morning, pre-evening as their high output window.
Yeah, that is interesting.
They aren't trying to do their most demanding deep work at 7, 8 a.m. when they're still waking up, and they're certainly not leaving it for 9 p.m. when they're exhausted. They are respecting the natural circadian rhythm of the day.
But, and this is a huge but, in the source, they don't just power through it nonstop for 5 hours. The source was very, very adamant about this. The philosophy of the break.
Yes. This is non-negotiable in their model. Both of them adhere to what seems like a strict regimen of stepping away from work. Jennifer takes short breaks to stretch and move around. Daniel's method is to get a snack, step away.
And Daniel says something really important. He says, stepping away from the desk really helps me recharge. Crystal, of course, is right there to define recharge as to regain energy.
Think about the physics of that definition for a second. To regain energy, you have to first assume that energy has been lost.
Right. It's a finite resource.
It is. The source is emphasizing that focus is not a steady state. It's not a switch you just flip to on. It is a resource that you actively deplete. You burn it. And if you don't step away to recharge that battery, you will hit a wall.
And what does hitting the wall look like? I love it that Crystal has a specific word for it.
She does. The word is sluggish, and she defines it as feeling slow and lacking energy.
It's the antagonist of the entire story. The whole day, this entire intricate structure is designed to defeat the sluggish monster.
It really is. And the primary weapon they use in their fight against the slump is, well, it's lunch.
We absolutely have to talk about the lunch menu. Because once again, they are incredibly strategic about what they are eating in the middle of their workday.
This is the lunch as fuel concept, and it's a direct continuation of the light breakfast philosophy. Both subjects explicitly, purposefully avoid heavy meals. Jennifer says, I don't like to eat anything too heavy as it can make me feel sluggish.
There's that word again. It's the enemy.
It is the enemy of the afternoon engine. So what do they eat to defeat it? Jennifer has a salad or a sandwich. Daniel gets very specific. He says, quinoa salad with veggies or a turkey sandwich.
A quinoa salad. It's so specific, it's almost a cliche of healthy eating, but there's a reason for it, isn't there?
There's a very good reason. Look at the nutritional profile of that meal. You have complex carbohydrates from the quinoa, lean protein from the turkey or in the salad, and high fiber from the vegetables. It is literally designed by nature to provide sustained, slow-release energy.
No sugar crash.
Exactly. And Daniel says it himself. Keeping it healthy helps me avoid that mid-afternoon energy slump.
And Crystal is right on cue to define energy slump as a dip in energy, usually in the afternoon.
This is a known physiological phenomenon. It's often called the postprandial dip. Your body's natural circadian rhythm already has a slight dip in alertness between about 1:00 p.m. and 3:00 p.m. That's just built into our biology.
Okay.
Now, if you combine that natural dip with a heavy load of simple carbohydrates, like a couple of slices of pizza or a big bowl of pasta, your insulin spikes to deal with the sugar, your blood sugar eventually crashes, and you are chemically, unavoidably forced into a nap. You're fighting biology on two fronts.
So they're eating to avoid the fog. They're basically eating for clarity. They're eating for the second half of their workday.
Precisely. They treat food as an instrument for performance, not just for pleasure or satiety. And notice, they also use the lunch hour for more than just eating. Daniel mentions that he uses it to regroup.
And what does Crystal say regroup means?
She defines regroup as taking a moment to organize your thoughts and prepare for the next part of the day.
I love that distinction. It's like a halftime show in a football game.
Yeah.
You don't just run off the field and eat an orange. You go into the locker room, you look at the game plan, you see what's working and what's not, and you prepare for the second half.
And that second half is what we might call the knockout phase.
Oh, I love this term. It sounds so aggressive, especially compared to the rest of the very gentle day we've heard about so far.
It is aggressive in a focused way. Crystal defines knockout, and she notes it's informal, as to complete tasks or finish work efficiently.
And look at when they do it. It's right after this strategic lunch. Daniel says, after lunch, I focus on key projects that require my attention and try to knock them out while I'm still feeling productive.
This kind of goes against some of that common productivity advice that says you have to eat the frog and do the hardest thing first thing in the morning. But Daniel and Jennifer, they wait, they hydrate, they plan, they do some initial work, they focus, they fuel up with a light, strategic lunch, and then they strike. They hit their most important tasks when their energy is at its peak.
So they're not really racing the clock. They're racing their own energy levels.
That's a great way to put it. They are self-aware enough to know that this peak state won't last forever. They've fueled up, they've regrouped, and now they are using that specific window of clarity for the heavy lifting. They're not answering emails or doing busy work after lunch. They are tackling the key projects. The goal is to wrap up the most important tasks before the evening wind down begins.
It is such a smart way to structure your day. You're matching the difficulty of the task to your biological energy level. You don't save the big, scary project for when you're exhausted and running on fumes at 4:30 p.m.
Exactly. You utilize the resource while you have it. You surf the wave of energy. And that brings us, logically, to the end of the workday, the transition into the final phase.
Section 3, the evening descent, or as we're calling it, the art of the reset.
The word unwind appears right at the start of this section. Crystal defines it simply as to relax and let go of stress. Jennifer finishes her classes, Daniel finishes his work, and they immediately and intentionally shift gears.
But how do they shift gears? What's the mechanism? Jennifer's ritual is a short walk or some light stretching. Daniel's is listening to music or also going for a walk.
Notice the recurrence of physical movement. We saw stretching in the morning, movement during breaks, and now walking and stretching to end the day. Why is movement such a consistent theme for both work and relaxation in this text?
Well, I'd assume it's just to get some exercise in to stay healthy.
It's more than that. It's more psychological than that. Stress is a physical phenomenon. When you are stressed at work, even if you're just sitting at a computer dealing with emails, your body is still flooded with cortisol and adrenaline. Physiologically, you are prepared to fight a tiger or run away from a bear.
But you're just sitting in an ergonomic chair arguing with someone on Slack.
Precisely. And all that chemical energy gets trapped in your muscles. It creates tension.
So the walk isn't just about fitness. It's about metabolizing and processing the stress hormones of the day.
Exactly. It is a physiological reset. There's also a concept called optic flow, the visual experience of moving through space, which creates a signal to the brain that you are moving forward, that the threat has been handled and left behind. It literally physically unwinds the tension.
And after they've unwound, we get to dinner. This is around 7:00 p.m. for both of them. And the theme, once again, is simplicity.
Simple but satisfying is how Daniel calls it. Jennifer's phrasing is quick and easy.
Let's look at the menu. Daniel is having grilled salmon with veggies or a stir fry. Jennifer is having pasta with vegetables or a rice bowl.
I have to say, the vegetable intake in the source material is honestly impressive. But look at the logic behind these meals. They want something that is nourishing and satisfying, but they clearly don't want to spend 2 hours cooking and then another hour cleaning up.
Right.
It's about efficiency, even in their relaxation time. The goal is to nourish the body without creating a new source of stress or friction in the evening.
Okay, now, here is where it gets really, really interesting. This was my favorite part of the entire transcript. The evening hygiene routine.
Yes, the return to the bathroom sink. The second border crossing of the day.
They both mention brushing their teeth and washing their face again in the evening. And Daniel uses this metaphor that I think is the absolute core of this entire deep dive. He calls it pressing the reset button.
Pressing the reset button. Crystal defines this as a metaphor for starting fresh. But let's really look at it in the context of the evening. Why wash your face at 8:30 p.m.? You aren't going anywhere. You're not trying to impress anyone. What's the point?
Has to be a boundary, right? A signal.
It is a sensory boundary. It's a physical ritual that marks a psychological transition. Think about the feeling of cool water on your face. It triggers a mild version of what's called the mammalian dive reflex. It actually slows your heart rate slightly.
No way.
It changes your skin temperature. It is a very gentle shock to the system. It literally washes away the grime and the stress of the day.
And Daniel says it explicitly. He says it shifts him into relaxation mode.
Which implies that before that moment, even though he was home, he was still in work mode. He needs the switch. Without that clear physical switch, the modes just bleed into each other.
And that's what so many of us experience. You're checking work emails at dinner. You're thinking about spreadsheets while you're trying to watch a movie. The reset button stops the bleed. It creates a hard partition between day and night. I think that is just so powerful, especially now in an era where so many people work from home. You don't have a commute to decompress anymore. You need a new trigger to signal the end of the day.
And once that button has been pressed, their behavior changes completely. This is the digital hygiene phase of the evening.
They are very, very explicit about this. Avoid screens before bed.
Which, let's be honest with ourselves, is probably the hardest part of this entire routine for most modern people to adopt. We are addicted to the blue light from our phones.
We really are.
But in this ideal day, it is a hard and fast rule. So instead of scrolling, they read a book, they listen to music, or they drink herbal tea.
And Crystal, our guide, jumps in here to define herbal tea as being caffeine-free to help relax.
Again, look at this. Ingestion as a tool. The morning started with water to alert the system. The evening ends with herbal tea to sedate the system. Every single substance they consume has a clear and deliberate purpose.
And the goal of all of this, the final step, is to wind down. Crystal defines this as to gradually slow down.
Gradually. That is the key word. You don't just crash into bed, you descend. It's a controlled landing, like an airplane. If you try to go from 100 miles per hour of brain activity, scrolling, working, watching an action movie straight to sleep, you're just going to lie there staring at the ceiling. You have to decelerate first.
And finally, that brings us to the sleep commitment. Jennifer is in bed by 10:00 p.m. Daniel by 10:03 p.m.
And the motivation they state for this is fascinating. It's not about the evening itself. Jennifer says she does it, so I'm well rested for the next day. Daniel says, it's amazing how much better I feel the next day.
So the entire evening routine isn't just about tonight, it's really about tomorrow morning.
Exactly. The cycle is completely circular. A good evening routine is actually step one of tomorrow's morning routine. If you don't sleep well, the stretch and hydrate tactic in the morning won't save you. You're already starting the day in an energy debt. They treat sleep as the absolute foundation of the entire structure.
So we walked through the entire day, we've dissected the anatomy of it, but I want to take a step back now and look at the meta layer of this whole thing. We have this third character, Crystal. She's the vocabulary expert. What is her real role here?
Crystal is absolutely essential. She isn't just defining words. She is the one giving names to these experiences. She's creating the labels.
Why does that matter so much? Why does it matter that we have a definition for regroup or recharge or sluggish?
Because language structures thought. If you don't have a word for that afternoon sluggish feeling, if you just feel bad, you might misinterpret that feeling as, I hate my job, or I'm lazy, or maybe even I'm depressed.
You attach a moral failing to it.
You do. But if you can identify it and label it as sluggishness, a specific temporary physiological state that Crystal defines as feeling slow and lacking energy, then you can treat it as a problem to be solved. You can say, oh, I'm feeling sluggish. I know why. It's because I had that heavy lunch. Next time I'll have the quinoa salad.
Naming it gives you power over it.
Yeah.
It externalizes the problem.
Precisely. In psychology, there's a technique called affect labeling. Studies have shown that when you put a label on a strong feeling, you actually reduce the activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center. You make the feeling manageable. When Daniel names the act of washing his face the reset button, he turns a simple hygiene habit into a powerful psychological tool. If he just said, I wash my face, it's just hygiene. But when he calls it a reset button, it becomes a form of self-directed therapy.
And the tone of the whole thing. Have you noticed how relentlessly positive and agreeable they are with each other?
It is really striking, isn't it? The phrases they use constantly are, that sounds nice. Exactly. Absolutely. I totally relate. It paints a picture of a world where this routine is not a burden. It's not a cage they're trapped in.
Which is how a lot of people feel about schedules and routines, that they're restrictive, that they kill spontaneity and fun.
But this source suggests the complete opposite. It suggests that this kind of routine is actually the source of balance and control.
Control, that is the word.
In a world that feels increasingly chaotic and unpredictable, having a personal script, wake up, hydrate, focus, recharge, reset, it gives you a profound sense of agency. You aren't just a victim of circumstance. You are not just reacting to whatever email lands in your inbox or whatever the algorithm shows you. You are the architect of your own day.
That is such a compelling way to look at it. The routine isn't the jailer, it's the bodyguard. It's there to protect your energy and your focus from the chaos of the outside world.
That's a perfect way to put it.
So, after all this, what does it all mean for us? For the listener who is maybe feeling a bit chaotic right now, who is listening to this and thinking, my mornings are a disaster, I eat pizza for lunch every day, and I scroll TikTok until 1 a.m. Where do you even start?
I think the single biggest and most actionable takeaway is the power of that reset button concept. You don't have to overhaul your entire life tomorrow morning. You don't have to join the 5 a.m. club, but you can start with the boundaries.
Find a trigger.
What's
the reset button?
Find a small physical trigger, whether it's washing your face like Daniel, or changing out of your work clothes, or brewing a specific cup of tea that you only drink in the evening. Find a ritual that tells your brain unequivocally, work is done. Create that partition.
I love that. The hard separation between on and off, especially for people who work from home, that's a game changer.
And the other big one is to remember the light breakfast and light lunch concept. We so often treat food as a reward. I worked hard today. I deserve this giant burger and fries. But this source teaches us to treat food as fuel. If you want to avoid the afternoon slump, you have to fuel the machine correctly for the task ahead.
It all just boils down to intentionality, doesn't it? From the moment they wake up without reaching for their phones to the moment they wind down without their screens, every action is a deliberate choice.
It is. And that leads us to the final provocation for everyone listening. The source material presents this seamless, disciplined, almost frictionless life. It seems effortless for Jennifer and Daniel. But for you, the question to ask yourself is this. Is your routine, or lack thereof, designed to serve your most important goals? Or are you just reacting to the time on the clock and the demands of others?
That is the question, isn't it? Are you driving the day, or is the day driving you?
Find the rhythm that keeps your life moving forward. It doesn't have to be their rhythm, but you need to find your own, just like Jennifer and Daniel did.
I think we really squeezed every single drop of wisdom